trying to delay
customer sick. The health department would probably shut it down eventually, right? Now I want you to think of that restaurant, the dining room where you get your food and the kitchen where they prepare it, as Wall Street, where the cooks, the banksters, the Jamie Dimons and the Lloyd Blankfeins, have an insatiable appetite to make money, and the people in charge of the front of the house just put scrambled little forms for you to figure out. You don't even know what it is. And at the end of the day, nobody cares who gets sick. That's how you get 1 in 7 Americans living below the poverty line, and an ongoing financial Ponzi scheme that is being ordained by our own Treasury Department. 43.6 million people in this country, the highest number we've had in 16 years, beneath the poverty line. Today, a little sliver of positive news for those in favor of those who would be against the cheaters and for those who compete in this country. Harvard professor Elizabeth Warren will help launch the new Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. She's an excellent choice for the job. I honestly couldn't think of a better one. The problem is the job itself, too small and doesn't actually address the problem. The bottom line, as we railed about so much with the financial regulation debate this summer, is that the Consumer Financial Protection Agency is more about easing our emotional anxiety about dealing with, oh my goodness, can people read the forms? But does absolutely nothing to stop the ongoing structural problem of allowing our financial institutions to take your retirement money and gamble with it to their winnings in too big to fail firms, which is a brilliant way to steal money. That is what we are dealing with at this moment in this country. Joining us now, a couple of different people. I'm not sure who's going to be here first, but I think I've got Senator Sanders. Hello, Senator. How are you?
I'm great. How are you?
Very good. So I want to split this into two different things. One, Elizabeth Warren and her role at the CFPA. Forget whether the CFPA will be effective or not. She obviously is the person you have been wanting. How do you feel about the current decision?
I think at a time when the American people are profoundly disgusted with the crooks on Wall Street and the huge rip-offs that Wall Street is perpetrating against the American people, I think millions of people are feeling better today that at least they're going to have a brilliant and aggressive advocate on their side in terms of Professor Warren. I've known Elizabeth for many, many years. She is smart, she is tough, and I think she's prepared to take on Wall Street, and I applaud President Obama for giving her that position.
If you were to look at the choice, the way it was done, the politics of doing it, if you will, she was not installed, as you know, on an interim appointment as the director. She was installed one level beneath that, and the director's chair apparently won't go filled. What does that mean to the layman?
Well, Dylan, here's the problem that you have. As you know, and as your listeners know, the Republicans in the Senate have been playing an incredibly obstructionist role from the first day of the Obama administration. They have brought forth a record-breaking number of filibusters, and I find it very amusing that some of these Republicans are saying, why doesn't the president just nominate her, bring her nomination to the Senate? Of course, so they can defeat her. The president understands that. I would not have minded a debate on the floor of the Senate. Let the American people understand who's on the side of the middle class, who's on the side of Wall Street. But at the end of the day, it was absolutely imperative that the president make this excellent appointment, and I'm glad that he did.
Yeah, I agree with you, and I applaud the president for making that decision on the front of the House. On to our next set of problems. As we know, Senator, if solving the world's problems meant electing the right senator, appointing Elizabeth Warren, or for that matter, electing Barack Obama, we could all go home and hang out at the beach for a while right about now. The fact of the matter is the number of people above the poverty line has exploded in this country. I won't recount all the statistics to you, but at the end of the day, what can we do to ensure that we don't take our eye off the ball to the structural problems in this country? Because Elizabeth Warren, as great as she is not going to save the financial future of this country.
No, Elizabeth Warren and no single individual is going to be the savior. We need a political revolution in this country. We need working people from California to Vermont to stand up and start taking on these big money special interests. Let me tell you what I think. Right now, as you know, right now, literally, within the next few days, we'll be debating tax policy. My Republican colleagues think that it's a great idea to give $700 billion in tax breaks to the wealthiest 2%. Dylan, I don't know if you know this, but latest statistics tell us that the top 1% now earns 23% of all income in America. Top 1/10 of 1% earns 11% of all income. Top 1% earns more income than the bottom 50%. This growing inequality is worse than in any other country, major country on earth. The idea of giving $100,000 on average in tax breaks to people who make $1 million or more, as the Republicans would like, is totally inane. It is an incredibly dumb idea. What we should do is take the $700 billion that we would gain, use half of it for deficit reduction, half of it to invest in our infrastructure, roads, bridges, water systems, create millions of jobs over the next 10 years, and put Americans back to work. That makes a lot more sense than giving tax breaks to billionaires.
Senator, thank you so much. It is always a pleasure. Thanks for making the trip down to the camera to talk to us today. Appreciate it. Bernie Sanders. Thank you, Bernie.
Thank you, Dylan.
All right. Another couple of pieces of economic news today. We hope you are sitting down for them. Not only did home foreclosures rise again last month, but banks actually repossessed more than 95,000 homes, which is a record number. That, the final step in the process when banks cannot auction the house, it becomes a repo and goes into inventory. Bear in mind the banks also continue, by many accounts, to misrepresent the value of all of those houses and then use that false value as a gambling chip in the financial markets, paying themselves bonuses, trading worthless houses as if they were worth something, but that's for another day. Also today, Treasury Secretary Tim Geithner on the Hill talking China, mainly their currency and our trade deficit, which is projected to top $250 billion this year. This only matters in the sense that China has deliberately created trade policies to outsource their unemployment problem with their extraordinary number of young men to our country. We now have it, and we're a rich country, so we pay for it. But China, at this point, does it at our expense. They keep taking our jobs. Of course, fat chance of the American political establishment under the control of the major six industries in this country, when those very same big six corporations, at least too many of them, continue to lobby in our own country to keep the oppressive labor practices that currently exist in Asia, because it's better for profits. And who the heck cares if the slaves are Chinese as long as they're not American, right? Let's talk to New York Times best-selling author, businessman, and all-around financial expert Peter Schiff, president of Euro-Pacific Capital. His latest book is titled How an Economy Grows and Why It Crashes. Peter, to spare both of us the agitation of lots of criticism of this and that and what's wrong and this and this and this, the reality is some of our problems, because America uniquely, unlike any other country in the world, owes a lot of money in its own currency. We're not Greece in that sense. We're not another country in that it does not have the dominant default currency of the world. Do you buy the argument that if we were to take advantage of that fact and really get honest about the housing problem, about the unemployment problem, about the China problem, that unlike other countries who are really screwed, we don't have to be as badly screwed as somebody like Greece, for instance, if we make good decisions?
No, actually, we're screwed worse. I mean, we are more reckless and more irresponsible because we are borrowing in our own currency. That allows us to try to inflate our way out of the problem, but we simply inflate our way into a bigger problem. You know, the statistics that you're running off, the U.S. economy is never going to recover until the government and the Federal Reserve get out of the way and allow market forces to restructure this economy, because government policy has so screwed it up. You know, it's the Chinese that are supporting us. They're not, you know, if it wasn't for the Chinese, there'd be no products on the shelves at Walmart. Who knows where interest rates would be if the Chinese weren't buying our treasuries? Now, in the long run, they're not doing any favors, by giving us the rope to hang ourselves with. But we have to understand how badly damaged our economy is because of the policies by people like Bernie Sanders, who was just on. And you know what really bothers me, when he talks about allowing people to keep their own money that they earned, and he looks at that as a giveaway, allowing me to keep the money I earned. The government isn't giving me that money. I earned that money. And what we need in this country is a respect for hard work and for entrepreneurship. And to let people know that the way everybody benefits is if you allow entrepreneurs to invest and grow businesses and hire people. Because if we chase all the entrepreneurs out of this country because we tax and regulate them to death, there's going to be nothing left.
So make this distinction for me. There's a huge difference between a new and innovative business that is creating work and wealth and solving problems for the reasons and inspirations that you just described. Though somebody who is a good competitor who competes. There is also a culture of those who cheat, those who use the access to the government, the ability to manipulate the government, the ability to use the government to prevent something else from happening. So the question is, how do you draw the distinction between the business community that is competitive and value creating and the business community that is, for instance, in my view, the financial institutions who utilize their access to the government to facilitate their interest at everybody else's expense?
That's the problem. We got to take the power away from Washington, and that access won't be so important. And I agree. Government and Wall Street are in bed together. Obama isn't taking on Wall Street. He's been bought and paid for by Wall Street. We have an economy that benefits Wall Street, but it bleeds Main Street dry. These cheap interest rates that we have are hurting the economy, but they're helping Wall Street. They're allowing Wall Street to continue to make money doing nothing but gambling, but shuffling people around. Meanwhile, credit is being taken away from Main Street. There is no money to invest in building a productive economy. A man can't get a loan to expand his factory, to buy new equipment, because all that money is being shoveled over to Wall Street based on government subsidies.
So I feel like there's a misperception in all of this debate in general, in the political community, in the media, on the street, that this is a class warfare of some kind, that it's rich versus poor, the tax debates make it class warfare, all these things, when the truth is it's a culture war between those who compete and those who seek to cheat. And at the end of the day, so there's rich cheaters and there's poor cheaters and there's rich competitors.
In economics,
go ahead.
You hit the nail on the head. You know, it's something called rent seekers. You have a number of people who are making a living off the government. They're feeding at the public trough. Some of them are just, collecting government benefits, like unemployment benefits. But some of them are living in, million-dollar mansions in New York, working at Wall Street firms. They are living off the productive class. And the productive class is getting smaller and smaller and smaller. And it creates the ability to vilify, whenever they want to talk about all the rich people that we want to tax, they always point to Wall Street. But most of the people who are rich are not on Wall Street. Most of the people who are going to pay these higher taxes are regular small businessmen that are trying to compete and grow a business, but that can't do that because the government makes it so complicated, not just with all the taxes, but all the regulations that cost a fortune to comply with, but do nothing to make us more competitive or to protect consumers. They protect the inefficient competitors who have friends in government who write these rules to benefit their own special interest, but to undermine the national interest.
Thank you, Chris Dodd. How is it that we ultimately make a distinction and avoid the train wreck that it would be a political and media-based class warfare, rich versus poor, which is really where we've been forced into by both the Republicans and Democrats in the political debate, in my view, and switch from the class warfare to the culture war between those who compete and those who would cheat?
Yeah, I mean, why did we look? We poured gasoline on that fire by bailing out all these Wall Street investment banks. People made a lot of money gaming the system. They made all these bad, risky bets. When the bets went sour, we bailed them out by taking money away from Main Street. And if you're talking about this younger generation, there is absolutely no way that the government can keep the promises that were made to the baby boom with respect to Social Security and Medicare and finance that by taxing the younger generation. They are not going to stand for it. They are either going to revolt or they're going to leave. They're going to flee this country like my grandparents came to this country. They're going to try to escape the tyranny of high taxes and regulation and inflation, and they're going to try to go to other places like China, where, believe it or not, there's a lot more freedom, there's a lot more respect for individual liberty and private property in communist China than there is here in the United States.
I'm well aware. I've been going to therapy to deal with that, Peter. It's a pleasure to see you. Thank you for the conversation this afternoon, Peter Schiff. Still ahead here on the Dylan Ratigan Show.